Yes. Sabil, are you there? Hello, Sabil. If Sabil is not present, then Alfat. Hello, Alfat. If Alfat is not present, then we can just start from Dian and Bagus. Or probably Fahima. Fahima and Hannah, please, you can just take the positions of becoming opening government. Okay.
Ini Sabil baru masuk nih, sir.
Okay, please, I don't want to play it, guys. Limited time. Come on, start, Sabil.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay. What are in the status quo right now? Social movement have so many kind in the society, right? So many kind of the social movement already spread in the society, and much of them also lead or the woman being the forefront of the social movement, right? So now the status quo right now that already rise in the society, that the teenagers being the forefront or the leader of the social movement, ladies and gentlemen. Why I said that? Because a lot of cases like the Greta Thunberg are being the teenagers, one of the teenagers that being the leader of the social movement. What in our government, right? The big case that we already read that will be happen in the future is that the teenagers will assume that the teenagers will assume that in their age as a teenager they have to be a forefront in social movement, or in their age they are capable, or in their age they are creditable to be the forefront in the social movement. So we know that the teenagers that are people or the child that in their age they actually have to do a school or take an education right. So we know that they still in the law of they still can control their emotion. They still need an education to be the part of their life, right? We know that we know that in our government we don't want the teenagers to be at the forefront of the social movement because we know that the case of that happened in the Greta Thunberg. They said that the school will strike to the environmental. The school will strike to the environments, and because of that campaign that the Greta Thunberg do, most of the society or most of the teenagers that 10 out of the 100s already take a same step from with the Greta. Because of what? Because the Greta already out from their school and focus to do the social movement, focus to campaign about the environmental. That 10 children that are already out of the school will have a lot of stigmatization. That first, that the students or the teenagers that should be the student to need an education, to take education in school, right? So maybe the one of the 10 that will thought about that they see the Greta Thunberg has a lot of support for the society because because she doing a social movement, or because she doing a right things to the society to make a better world, to make a better world in the future. And maybe one of the 10 that see that the glorification or see the good impact that Greta Thunberg has in the front of the society, that the people will see that the Greta Thunberg get the Nobel, get the appreciations. They take a look from the government, and she became a part of the government by doing that campaign. So maybe the students or teenagers that are already out of the school will assumes that they will have the same conditions that Greta Thunberg do, but not at all this determined. So a lot of cases that happened in to the forefront of the social movement or the leader of the social movement, they got a lot of pressure from the society. Why I say that? Because we know that the stigma in society when the teenagers being the role model or being the model or being the leader or the forefront of the social movement, they will assumes that, oh, maybe they will she or he has someone behind them, or maybe the girl or the member has paid by the government to be the model or to be the leaders to the society, to gain a lot of supporter, to gain a lot of support from the society to do the social movement or to support the environmental issue of this semester. Because of what? Because maybe the government will want to the teenagers also take action to save our world, take an action to being the environmentalist. So because of that, a lot of people will think that the teenagers need to take actions to have an action to save our world, to save our earth. So we are already regrettable that rise of the teenagers in the forefront of this remember that happened in the status quo right now. So we don't want the teenagers being the forefront of the social movement, because of what? They still need to take indications. They still in the law of the control to control their emotions, and they are still need an education, more education to know which kind of education, which kind of knowledge they do in the social movement. So we know that too, that the social movement to be the leader of the forefront of the social movement, they need the leadership and they need a leadership skill to be a leader, to lead the people, to lead the society, to lead the movement to gain the purpose and achievement. So the leadership itself that will not rise that will not in the people that from when they born to the world, the leadership skill is need to be practiced. It needs to be taken to need to be we have to practice the leadership skill. So rather than the teenagers being the forefront of the movement, they can be part of the social movement by follow the social movement and will practice the leadership that will representative by the leader of the social movement. We know that a lot of cases that happen in society, that the leader or the forefront of the social movement are not mean again that a lot like the feminists also being the case that the social movement that forefront with the woman. So we believe that the Greta Thunberg or the teenagers also need education. They need have to lead to take action to belajar leadership before they want to be the forefront on the social movement. So here we as the common, we really regret that rise of nature at the forefront of the social movement. So I'm from the government, I'm really propose of this mission. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to opening positions. Diane, floor is yours.
Okay, I'm start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So this motion is about this house this house regret the rise of teenager at the forefront of social movement, like example Greta Thunberg, Malala Yousafzai, and the Parkland Students. So before I want to deliver my argument, I would like to give the OG rebuttal. So the first one, the OG state about the low emotion, about the teenager who doing as the leader as social movement is will be bad or something happen because the low emotion. We can see if teenager is not, I mean, like teenager, every teenager or every mature people, adult people is have emotion. How we can able, or how we can judge them by low emotion? I mean, like low emotion is not because how they can in the they are teenager is on their age, because their age is still a children, or still in the change to be mature age or something else. But we can see even uh, in adult age, we can see if emotion can be to the law. Because why? Because they can't handle what the problem itself. So the next one, OG said, need education. uh, I mean, like, the teenager need no need education, because how far we can, or how limited education will be as our leader, or how can we handle ourselves into like, how can we be able to be a leader if we just waiting our education to be enough? I mean, like, this is the wasting time. So the next one is why we always have, or make education as the priorities. uh, the education as the concept is to be better, right? And to be better is not always theory. So we also have a practice. So social movement is the practice. And why teenager should be a leader? Because it will be practiced by them. So jump to my argument. The first one, we disagree about this motion, because the first one, we can see teenager as a potential in the future. even if Even if this is not feature, even in the present time, we can see if the Greta Thunberg is so many impact that she has she has given to us. Because the first one, we can see if she is so viral right now. uh she is have invitation, they all know her as a speaker, and also uh the activist of social movement. Because why? Because the climate change, or the what is that? Uh, yeah, the climate change is really not okay to us. Because why? Because that's kind of like a reminder to us. Because the people, or the other people, is not aware about what's really happening in the world. So what we have to do is, the teenager, we have to give or make them as the leader. Because the teenager is having motivation, or having like, what is that, having like uh initiation or something like that. We can I mean, like, uh teenager is the time or long term between children to be mature. So because this is the changing age between teenager and the mature. So because we have to be able to give them the change, and the change is to leader the social movement. And we can see in the Greta Thunberg is the viral. If the viral, it will be the people will be now, if our social is not really okay. So we have to be aware. If we just only like memangku tangan in other people, we will not get the feedback, or we will not knowing what the problem is here in the social itself. And also the second one to my argument is as the ministry a reminder and the society a reminder. Because why? We can see ministry is very lazy. Because the ministry will see the teenager is uh, exploding the time. Because it will as the journalism talk about this student Greta is only about naughty girls, because they're so vocal and social movement. But we can see this is why ministry is so lazy to hear them, to hear what uh the voice about hak asasi manusia and the other. So but so including this, ministry has to be aware by this kind of teenager, like the leader of the social movement itself. So we can see also from the Malala Yousafzai, maybe from this case of Malala, it will be wasting money, like uh, teenager like Greta and Malala will not getting school as every day. Because they have to be able speaking or spoken to others into their their movement into the society, into here by them. But we can see if the Greta and the Malala not be able or in the world, our world, it will be like blurry in the social. How about we can be able about, yeah, we just, like patung melted man, yeah, this kind of like uh ironically in this hour in this world, because why? Because the activists or the mature the education people will only about the theoretical, it's not the practical. So based on the teenager, we can see if the practical must be taken and must be do. And i I prefer to be purpose.
Okay, thank you, Dion. Let's move on to the opening government. Alpha, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So my POA preference is just unmute yourself and say POI. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So my speech start from 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to know that firstly, I want to rebut what the opening opposition says. That they said there is no need for teenager for education. Firstly, we have to know what education means. We have already know that education is always separate two things. That firstly, learning by doing, and the secondly is learning by theory. As we know that the teenager is very young people, and I said the teenager is in this case is maximum for the high schooler. So firstly, we have to know that the teenager itself is very young, though, so there is not enough education for them, especially learning by doing and learning by theory to back up them in the reality case, for example, in social movement. So ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I will tell about the learning by doing. We know that learning by doing means that the people is doing something and learn from what they doing and gain some experience. For example, in our status quo, we can see that our teenager is doing OSIS, and in this OSIS, they can do some activities, and of course, they can learn about leadership in OSIS, which they can make team and make some proposal, of course, and make them activity for themselves. This is the provement that the teenager to practice their knowledge, to practice and gain experience is not only by being a leader of the social movement, but also they can teach themselves by doing some social activity in schools such as OSIS and other UKM. We already know that by doing this organization in schools such as OSIS, that they will train them mentally how they can make some program, how they can make some activity by being an event organizer in that activity. And secondly, I will tell about the learning by theory. We know that in our school that we always read the book, we always solve the problem of mathematics, we always solve the case. We have to believe that this is a very important for the young people, because this is train their cognitive to find the root of causes from the problem. This is a very important. Why? Because when they face the reality, when they face the problem, it's very easy to them if they know how to find the root of the problem and solve that problem, because what the root of the problem itself. So if they learning by theory in the school, they will gain a knowledge, and of course it will when they go mature, when they have already knowledge enough, they will implement that in our society. I think that the very important thing that the teenager in our status quo doing right now is not being a leader, or is not being a leader of the social movement itself. And the secondly, what the opposition said, that teenager is a transition from child to mature. So in this state, we have to know that if child in transition to mature, there is some indicate that there is no emotional unstable and there is a high temper. we can see that in our status quo, our teenager has emotional unstable, which is we can see that there is a lot of violation, there is a lot of harassment when they get young, and they have a high temper. They usually throw, they punch, and also they not solve the problem by dialogue, but solve problem by the violation itself. This is proof that to solve the problem in social movement, which is this is a movement, which is this is a bigger problem than what they should handle. This is proof that they not enough qualified to join or to lead the social movement in our status quo. So thirdly, the opposition said about the climate change. The climate change itself, this is very good. They said to the teenager to lead the climate change movement. We have already know that in climate change, there are also a lot of sections such as academics, scientists, and environmentalists that also bring a lot of knowledge and solve the problem of our environment and climate change itself. So they have we already know the academics and environmentalists have a lot of knowledge and have a lot of experience is enough to solve this problem, which is this is the section which is the climate change itself is their bidang. So it's more qualified to them to being a social, to lead the social movement in our society than a teenager itself. So going to my substantive, firstly, we have to know that the teenager itself is they have their cognitive thing is not ready. We can see that the teenager not to in in the except the Indonesia, because we are in the country. The teenager in there is minded in our status quo is not like, because the knowledge itself for our teenager is not enough to solve the problem in our society. So we can see the example for in our status quo, because the teenagers lead to some movement, freedom of speech, rather than the intention to bring the freedom of society. That finally each other and insult each other. They want to freedom of speech implement Indonesia frontally. So in this case, we see that because of they just insult and hate, but do not do the dialogue from the society itself for the intentions, it's bring a chaos such as our problem is already now do the social.
Okay, I guess so. Seems like there is a problem with Alfat. Yeah, but let's not to really care about that. Okay, just move on because his time is over as well. Let's move on to the next opening opposition. The floor is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, my POI preference, just unmute yourself, and I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our mission today is this House regret the rise of teenagers at the forefront of social movement. Example like Greta Thunberg, Malala Yousafzai, and the Parkland students. Okay, before I deliver my argument, I want to up some point that the opening government failed to explain to us as an opening government. The uh, the opening government doesn't really understand what is forefront mean. They always says that the teenager will be the leader of social movement. Teenager will lead the social movement. But in here, in this motion, there is no words that the teenager will lead the social movement. This is about the forefront. Forefront isn't always about the leader. Forefront can be the brand ambassador too of the social movement. So the teenager doesn't always need to be the leader. And then the second is I want to give some rebuttals to the opening government. The opening government said that the teenager isn't ready yet to be the forefront of social movement because they are not mature yet on their emotional. They have some emotional issues, and then they need more education on school, and then they need to learn leadership by joining some OSIS or another UKM and so on and so forth. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that this is not a problem at all because the spirit of pointing out some issues is not about the age, ladies and gentlemen. It is about the mindset. It is about the brain. And then if our teenager has already have that kind of spirit, that kind of mindset to fix our world, to fix the problem of our world, so it is really good for us, ladies and gentlemen. And if they already want to be the forefront of the social movement, then that is so good for us because we will have a golden next generation for the long term, ladies and gentlemen. And also the opening government said that learning by doing, learning by theory, joining some OSIS for teenager is better than to be the forefront of the social movement. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to explain you, and my first speaker has already explained you too, that what is the exact purpose of the education? What is the exact purpose the teenager go to the school, ladies and gentlemen? The purpose is to be the better person. The purpose is to incite, to enlighten their mindset, to enlighten their brain, and then they can fix the problem in real world, ladies and gentlemen. So if our teenager is already willingly, genuinely to be the forefront to do some social movement, then it is good. We have to gratitude for that. We don't need to regret this. We don't need to force them to not doing this social movement, because that is the real purpose of our education, ladies and gentlemen. And then the opening government also cannot prove us why the OSIS organization, why by joining OSIS is better than joining some social movement. They don't prove us, they don't give us the clear explanation about that, because we believe that by joining the social movement, it will be more great for the teenagers, because firstly, from the connection, they will get more connection in the society. They will have more relationship in our society than the OSIS, because if the OSIS, they will only get the relationship between the same teenager, between the same school. But if they join some social movement, they can get the relationship from the others, maybe from their senior of the social movement, maybe from the important person like Deddy Corbuzier or etc. and so on. And then the second rebuttal is the opening government said that if teenager being the forefront of social movement, they will get more pressure, ladies and gentlemen, because society will think that they get someone behind them of doing that, because they're doing that social movement. But they cannot prove us what is the meaning of society will think that there is someone behind them, because being care, doing something to social movement isn't easy, ladies and gentlemen. And if they do this and they are still teenager, there must be the genuine, they will be genuine. If they have some pressure, they will not do this, because this is not easy do some social movement. And then I'm gonna jump to my argument. Why we don't agree with this motion? Because the first, if the teenager, uh, if the teenager being the forefront of social movement like Greta Thunberg, Malala Yousafzai, and Parkland Students, this will engage more attention in society, ladies and gentlemen, because they are still teenager and they already care about our world. They already care about our real world problem, ladies and gentlemen. So the society will get more respect for them because they are still teenager, which is that is not their responsibility. It's the adult responsibility, but they already care about this. So the society will more respect to them, and then if this appear on news, there will be more engagement from the society to get attention with them. For example, like Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg is a girl from Sweden that speak about the climate change that the opponent government has already told, and then Greta Thunberg speak about climate change, and then she got viral in the internet. And what is the impact if she get viral in the internet? The impact is the first, Greta Thunberg could get scholarship from other university because she is brilliant. She want to spoke this, and this is important for the better future, because the internet, the society in the world can see that Greta Thunberg is golden generation that we have to take care. And then the impact is Greta Thunberg could get some scholarship. That is the impact for the Greta Thunberg itself. And then what is the impact for the society? The society will get more attention. The society will get more aware because of this Greta Thunberg news in society. And then the Greta Thunberg itself get some invitation from TED Talk to be the speaker, ladies and gentlemen. So that's already proof us that we don't need to regret this, ladies and gentlemen. We need to support this because this will lead to be a good thing in our future, because we have the golden generation, ladies and gentlemen. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, then let's move on to the closing government. The floor is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay, let me set my timer, please. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Member of government speaking. We will bring another argument that opening government and focusing on education rather than the forefront of the social movement itself. But before that, I will rebuttal of the opposition that they say the forefront are not the leader of the social movement. That is wrong, because the forefront itself is the Greta Thunberg. That means that this teenager have to lead the social movement itself, and they have to make the community itself move because of the awareness of these people itself, and make the change to the society or the environmental that they focusing on. For example, Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg is try to change the climate change, so she have to lead the environmentalist itself. So it's kind of burdensome to her. So it's not realistic to do that.
Please.
Yeah, please.
For the Greta Thunberg, I believe that the world will have Greta Thunberg to the Greta Thunberg purpose, because it is very important and it's very noble purpose. Thank you.
Okay. That's true, but she is still young and she don't have the responsibility to do all that kind of problem, all kind of burden on herself. And this kind of thing has to be solved by the government itself. So it's not necessarily done by herself. And by doing so, she gain the fame, and it's really beneficial for herself also, but for the movement also. But it's not her responsibility, and by doing so, it's just a kind of burdensome for herself. So right now, the rise of teenager at the forefront of the social social movement are shown by the media and glorified by the media itself, even though the burden of this topic is not the responsibility of the teenager. And this movement is that's happening is not really impactful to the world or the society. And why just put a burden to change the world to just this inexperienced people rather than to let the government or the organization that capable to solve the climate problem, for example, is unrealistic. And if we only wait this teenager to solve all the problem, there is no real solution because they don't have the power to move all the resources that are available in society to solve all the problem itself. Next, I will jump to my argument. Number one, the teenagers are not capable enough to lead this social movement. That means that, as we know, the social movement is happening because the society wants some change because of the problem is that happening in the society itself. For example, the climate change is that happening right now. The society want to change this problem, and as we know that this movement is happening right now in everywhere, and these teenagers are just supporting this movement and leading this group of grown-up men and not really have the leadership that is or capability that these people is want. And the rise of teenager as the leader of social movement are because of the social media itself that promote the teenager as inspiring people and make more teenager or young people to do that themselves. And we know the society is supporting young thinker that pursue the critical problem and willing to solve the problem, and they supporting this teenager. But after that, we don't really know how the society really treat this teenager, because if this teenager do some kind of problem or problematic in some kind of way, the society will backlash them more strongly because the society see this teenager as the savior of human being, as the leader of no thanks, the leader of social movement itself. And if he or her do some kind of problem, the society will backlash them more strongly. And second argument is the teenager are not mature enough to be forefront of social movement itself.
Yo, please.
No, thank you. The matter that I mean is the capability to weigh the advantage. And yes, please.
You said that if the teenage get problem, then society will attack them back. But it is also happened to the adult, too. So we don't have to regret this. You cannot approve this.
Yes, so it's happening to everyone, but for these teenagers, it's more harder for them to cope with this backlash because they not strong enough, they're not mature enough in their thinking and their heart, and they hurt more than this adult itself, because the adult have the experience with the negative thinking from the society, and but this teenager itself are still young and not capable enough to solve that problem. And the method that I mean is the capability to weigh the disadvantage of political, social, and economic situation, because they just focusing on the problem solving that is must be considering all the power holders that also have agenda and thinking about the advantage and disadvantage within their power. Then as the nature, they don't understand the power struggle within the government or wealth itself, so they more likely offend the power holder or their followers, because they offend this party, they can get the backlash from the follower of these people, and by this teenager can by this they can block their future, for example, because they can gain the follower from the people in the society. So that's all for me.
Okay, let's move on to CO. The floor is yours.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
POI is through the chat. Starting my speech. In 3, 2, 1. Basically, the idea of government bench is this teenager have high temper, and that's why there will be an emotional based discussion rather than meritocracy based discussion. I don't know, maybe they haven't like seen the legislative member of Indonesia exist in meeting and they literally hit the table or even fighting each other and move out from that debate simply because they're already overwhelmed by anger. It proves you 3 things. First, it's never inherent that this high temper is always to be in the life of this kind of teenager. Second of all, even if yes, but it is something that is normal in any kind of discussion, because sometimes if the situation is that dire, if the people in front of you is literally disgusting because they're directly denying any kind of social protection that you want to give, this is exactly something that is normal to be done for far too long in the status quo right now. But truth of all, if your action is already too much, I think there's an existence of law enforcement, right? Because you already misconduct the law. And that's why in outside of the house, less likely for this teenager to directly point out a harsh word, for example, or doing something like hitting people or even killing people simply because that is something that is prohibited by law. But the mechanizations of opening opposition is never clear, right? Because there is no explanation on how then our voice will be likely to be heard as an social movement by the time we utilize this teenager, and what is basically the right of this teenager to voice out this kind of voice. But before everything, one model of explanation exists in status quo. I think just because this teenager is the one who will get the spotlight doesn't mean that there is no check and balance from the former generation, because social movement is quite diverse and big, right? We have BLM, we have environmentalists, feminists, and etc., which literally affects multi-dimensional life of people. And that's why in the demonstration of the threat of the abortion in Texas, we have also a lovely grandmother exists in that demonstrations because they're also the part of this kind of movement. But these teenagers are likely to listen to their voice because they don't want to like lose supporters coming from that quiet big movement. But what we do in our side of the house is this teenager is going to be the one who will get the credit because this teenager is the one who initiate that, and they are going to be the one to be asked to like attend any kind of national and international conference, stuff like that. With that being said, 2 things in my speech. First of all, why then this teenager is the one who capable and have a full right to catch the spotlight. 3 explanations. First, because anything in regards to that social movements issue have a super tight correlation with their future agenda. Literally, if your government cope into more capitalist and too pro-businessman policy, then you are going to have less job opportunity in the future because people have like more capacity to acquire as much profit, as much private capital and private property as possible. So there is less likely for you to like have capacity to challenge and climb the market. Or even if your government weakening the policy of protections the environment with this kind of corporation, so the one who feel the bad air, the one who will experience not having access to the clean water is basically you as a young generation, simply because the problem of environment maybe cannot be affected the current generation because it is it is still too early, right, in order to feel the damage of that kind of environment. Second of all, simply because you have a space to do that in which enable you to strongly voice out any kind of issues without any sense of fearness. Because as a teenager, you don't have to think about, for example, when you point out any kind of labor exploitation done by this corporation, you don't have to think that you're going to be fired by that kind of corporation, or you just simply don't have to think like how you gain profit and how you send your children go to school, because as a teenager you still have a lot of time in order to like form your future and even try to put the benefit and legacy within the society. So it is likely to this teenager to be not afraid and not biased in pointing out any kind of issues of this kind of social movement. Third of all, because your intelligence and have enacted nature of curiosity to combat the system. I'm talking about Greta Thunberg, even if she is dropped out from college, but Greta Thunberg literally understands each single word about environment. she is so educated, because education is never determined by how long you go to college or how long you go to school. Instead, she learns about those environment, and that's why she has those critical thinking in order to challenge those kind of government. Most of the time, these teenagers have that kind of intelligence. I'm talking about Maudi Ayunda. I'm talking about Emma Watson, who always try to challenge this kind of unfair system exists in the status quo right now. And that's why it is likely for this teenager, in conclusion, it's likely for this teenager to be the only one actor who have capability and have concerns in order to change the entire system and make this kind of social movement become even more successful in the future. Second of all, and the most important, why then we are going to be heard, right? Because this is the possibility asked by causing government to say that in our side of the house there is no idea that will be heard by the government. I have three explanations here. First, because you can pander to the more young generation. Why then youth is so important? Two things. Because first, they are just physically more powerful because they are still young, they have still got a lot of energy and so on and so forth. Second of all, because they are likely to be respected by the society. Society is already tired with the boomer politician because they think that this boomer politician is just likely to like try to be re-elected, for example, and try to mechanize any kind of resources in order to like get more capital in order to do their campaign and so on and so forth, because politician is dirty in the mind of society. But this kind of teenager still have the idea of fresh, fresh and even benevolency, simply because people currently who feel and experience any kind of social issue, they're likely to say that this is the work of colleger to try to like combat the government by the end of the day. But if you are not youth who point out this kind of idea, instead this kind of youth generation are likely to be not relatable with you, or even there is an intergenerational gap who makes this youth generation even hate this kind of boomer in the very beginning. Second of all, it's because you have the unique radical ideology. I'm talking about AOC, who literally proposed for Grand New Deals, which super radical simply because it's going to hamper a lot of businessmen. But this is important because first it is needed because the situation currently is so dire. We are talking about the extinction of human being by the time the temperature of world rising under 2 degrees. We are talking about women in El Salvador who are jailed for 30 years simply because this woman, like simply because too strict regulation in terms of abortion. Even in the worst case scenario in our side of the house, that this radical ideology is not accepted fully, at least within the table of discussion, you can moderate win-win solution in our side of the house, right? Because in our side of the house, we are likely, because people are likely to go to the moderate things by the time the things that are proposed by these people is like too utopic or too utopian. That's why you are likely to get protection. Very propose.
Let's move on to the closing government. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this debate round, the motion is this House regard the rise of teenagers at the forefront of social movement. So, my first speaker of opening government had already explained to us that the status quo we use in this round of debate is we know that teenagers are just being confident and not good enough of being social movement. They need to take care. They need to take more education to be part of life. We don't want teenager to be social movement. And also the campaign delivered by Greta that impacted by Greta itself is still that impacted to the Greta itself. It makes the Greta lose their formal education, and also they believe they will the teenagers of the forefront social movement believe that they will get more support from the government, but in fact government itself just appreciate, not totally support, whether from fund or maybe budget. And for the government, we regret the rise of teenagers at the front of social movement. Movement because some certain strong reason, because first, as my member of government have explained, the teenagers at the forefront social movement still lack of power to change and reboot society. For the example, Greta just can't speak up about her propagation of the mitigation of climate change, but unfortunately the impact was not as big as good of is not as big or as good as people want. And also the second, we could say that the teenagers are still not researching deeper about the certain problems happening in the world. They are still knowing problems on the surface without looking for more evidence and post solution of all problems we have. And also maybe they persuade some solution to change world, that being better of problem of to change world, that being bad of problems happen, but the solution considered is still not enough and still not effective. So people just see their little effort, not big effort to change and rebuild the society. Humans need practical solution, not just theoretical solution, which it means the teenager as the forefront social movement is still persuade or maybe provide the theoretical solution, not just like practical solution. That the practical solution itself, we believe that it's more like valuable to change or maybe rebuild the society in the world. And also teenagers should be more skillable for being forefront in social movement, because we believe teenagers have emotion stable and love to be narcissistic and gaining attention to people's, like what of my opening government said. Yeah, we know that teenagers itself still have
please.
like what is that? Like personal changing, because they still looking of their real or maybe like that's why no thanks, and that's why the teenager itself is still being unstable or maybe like still love being narcissistic and gaining more attention to the society or maybe to the people. And if the teenager itself found some problems that maybe they have an opportunity to be the center or maybe the attention to the society, they will like happily giving or maybe persuade some solution, that the solution itself is still not like mature or maybe still not good enough to be implemented to the society. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that being a better person of a teenager, it doesn't mean they have to change world then make big impacts in society, but they can start from little social organization that give impact to surrounding. We believe it was such a great start for the teenager to be such a better person. For simple example, it's just like us. How can we call ourselves as a college students? We can change the world if how could we change the world if from the surrounding itself still not give any valuable impact? And also, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that society, especially adult people, still not aware of the little campaign or propaganda. Because of what? Because they still have not enough power to change people to rebuild the society culture. And also that was true if emotion is not something that violate the law, but if we take more attention to it, we consider the like or unstable emotion of the teenager as the prevention effort for us to teenager itself of being possibility to be worse or bad for fun social movement. So ladies and gentlemen, that things that can we sum or maybe we conclude of the government speaker said to us is first, teenager itself still we consider the teenager itself still not good enough to be the forefront of social movement, because the teenagers still need more education, still need more like what is that, the major or maybe major emotion, and also make their emotion itself is be a stable first. Because why? The teenagers, we know that they love to be gaining more attention, they love to be surrounded by people, they love to also they love to be narcissistic. So that's why teenagers themselves should like develop their own potential more rather than being like be a forefront or maybe what is that, the leader of the social movement. We just like give more opportunities and also give more chance to the adult or maybe the mature people be the leader. Because why? Because yeah, we believe that adult people, or maybe yeah, human with more experience can good enough to give us a solution, especially for practical solution, not just like theoretical solution that we need for this era. And also, ladies and gentlemen, if teenagers don't get more education first and not be skillable enough first, it can be danger for the future impacts because they come to the mature person but just matter on the age, not in the brain. Also, experience they have for persuade or convincing people to change path is still not enough. After all reason, we are proudly to propose this motion. Thank you so much for the attention.
Okay, let's move on to the last speaker from the closing opposition declaration.
I'm audible, Kak?
Yes, you are.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, rebuttal toward closing government, even even it is second speaker and first speaker of closing government only neglected the function of the teenager themselves, like they are only neglected. Teenagers are not capable to be a frontliner social one, or they are not mature enough, ladies and gentlemen. Even my first speaker already prove you more and wider of explanation, ladies and gentlemen, why teenager is already capable inside. I will more prove you that they are already capable. First, under 4 analysis. First of all, my first speaker already prove you that they have unique radical ideas inside. They have more inspiring inside, like the new agreement from the teenager and ladies and gentlemen. They most likely have a new way to solve the problem. So we those teenagers in the front financial movement. And second of all, they have no much burden or consideration to take the action or take the decision itself. Like there is no wife, the child itself to burning them at the end of the day. They do not afraid to fire by corporation. Most likely they will not buy yours at the end of the day to take the decision at the end of the day. They will not afraid with the corporation at the end of the day. And third of all, the teenagers are curious and want to know the something new in themselves. They still fresh in their age themselves, ladies and gentlemen. Mostly they will easily to find the new experience, and they most likely will easily to find the way to solve the problem at the end of the day. And fourth of all, not all teenagers be frontliner and self, ladies and gentlemen. We will choose the best one at the end of the day. So still there is the people or the teenager will campaign in the small area at the end of the day. And there is still existence discuss with the old generation under our of the house. But most likely, so there is the also check and balance under our side of the house. And also, exactly under our side of the house, we will change the politics atmosphere in the better condition, because in status quo people are really dire with the government or the old politician, like they do corruption, nepotism, and etc. that really harming for our society. But comparatively under their side of the house, they most likely when they are only rely on the old generation will only justify the baby boomer at the end of the day. They will only justify those baby boomer will drive our society at the end of the day, like they most likely do the nepotism or corruption at the end of the day. It will be harm for the communal society, just because the society that still discriminate, most likely they will not go out from the discrimination just because the mindset is same from the beginning and stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And let's move to open government. The second speaker of open government bring this debate on the limited place in, like for example in school and stuff. I will prove you the wider second self, their post as the teenager will be achieved. They are become the front line of the social movement and stuff. First of all, just because they want to profit, but like they are do the education, they want to get the profit. By those frontliner of the social movement, they also can get the benefit inside. They will be a politician, for example, just because they already have experience to do the social movement. And at the end of the day, because they already have experience of this, they most likely will getting the good position on the political spectrum at the end of the day, just because they already have good public speaking and experience and stuff. And second of all, they do not want to getting profit and stuff, they want to benefit and stuff, most likely it will be effective way to get to be benefit and stuff. They need to give the social greater good and stuff. So by those frontliner of social movement, the social movement will give them and make them be benevolent at the end of the day, just because on the important position like frontliner and stuff, they will easily to take decision at the end of the day, so it will be giving and make them will be easily to be benevolent at the end of the day. But comparatively under their side of the house, you only benefited yourself, but do not give benefit for the another people that need your help at the end of the day. Like you will not people really need your help, like people in the discrimination or people that have worse condition of environment, their environment already exploited by the corporation selfless, like they already have bad air condition, black river, and etc. It is to be bad under the side of the house, just because they will only getting benefit for yourself at the end of the day. And first speaker of open government already said that this movement or this position will make teenagers not focus on their education. It is not true under 3 reasons. First of all, the characteristic of teenagers and stuff, we need characterize themselves. They are 17 under 21 and stuff, which is they are already have mature and stuff. They already have more consideration and stuff. They as colleger, for example, it is different with the high school member and stuff. They can more likely will easily to divide their need or divide their time at the end of the day. And second of all, social movement have extra time to run their agenda when the condition is really urgent, ladies and gentlemen. It's only temporary. E.g., like the environmentalists, when there is the massive pollution, they will running their agenda massively and stuff. It is only temporary until they do not do. There is no massive of this exploitation at the end of the day. And terms of it will be good under the house, just because they will have divide their time. It's only temporary and stuff. Why under the house we should win and stuff? Let's compare with opening opposition. Opening opposition only run this debate on the comfort zone and stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Like they are want to give bring benefit for these people, teenagers, like those teenagers can get more relationship and stuff. But under the house, we will give you more wider impact and stuff, just because they will run getting a good position on political spectrum and stuff. It will be giving wider impact under the house. It will more benefited for these people or this year, and also for the society, it will give more wider impact and stuff, just because when there is the good decision of this teenager, it will be good for the society and stuff. So that's why we should win on this debate. We're very proud to oppose.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm going to give you the overview on how the debate has been going so far. So I decide that this debate is won by the closing oppositions as the first place. The second place would be the opening opposition. The third place would be the opening government, and the last place would be the closing government. And there are several reasons. Okay, the reason why I put the closing oppositions as the first rank is that the basic arguments or the essence of what has been delivered by the opening opposition is the idea of a networking, okay, and also the importance of having a spirit mindset that it also puts some cares toward the environment. But those essential arguments have been successfully rebutted by more broadening rebuttals delivered by the closing opposition, saying that the impacts or the positive impacts accepted by the teenagers at the end of the day will be more expanding in terms of the network if they can successfully catch the spotlight, since it will bring more future agendas, for example, something related to their job opportunities or career. Okay, so and the second reasons why I put the opening of positions in higher position rather than the opening government is due to the successfulness of the opening of positions in providing rebuttals toward the arguments given by the opening government, saying that even though there's some arguments still stand at the end of debate, for example, like the essence of leadership, and also coming from the opening government is still stand till the end of the debate, but almost most of the arguments delivered before have been tackled from the opening opposition, saying that learning by doing can still be existed and even much better achieved instead of the social organizations, for example, like that becomes the real goal of education, and has been profoundly supported by saying that due to their incapability of having stable mentality, they earn societal respect due to also the earlier responsibility, and it will be more engagement and providing more than getting scholarship and something sort of like that. And the next one, why I put the opening government, the closing government in the lower rank compared to the opening government is due to more repetitions on that. There's no enough developments of arguments on that. For example, like the closing government would like to highlight the importance of not having responsibility, that those teenagers do not deserve or do not is not appropriate yet to lead, okay, and to handle that noble purpose is better to be taken care of by the government instead, and it's valued as realistic, and that would be strong backlash. But unfortunately, those kinds of valuable arguments have been resisted strongly by the closing opposition. And above all, something new that has been delivered before by the closing government, which is more into the capability of lead, has been totally discussed in previous stands or previous stage between the opening oppositions and opening government. That becomes the concise deductions of what and how I judge the debate we have tonight. All of you have been doing so good, and I hope you will again better successful in debating for the next time. Thank you so much, and good night, everyone. See ya.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you, Kak, for the feedback.
Yes.
Thank you,
Question
everyone.
sedikit karena ngeliat tadi stand-nya gimana? Karena agak lambat masuk.
Gimana?
Stance-nya tadi rank-nya siapa
Oh,
yang
rank.
pertama gitu?
First rank CO, second rank OO, third rank opening government, and then the fourth rank is closing government. I will type it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your excitement.